Well, as promised, let's get straight to the management of Sarda Energy. They posted a solid showing in the fourth quarter. The steel and the ferro alloy EBITDA, both of them saw a good growth. Mr. PK Jain, the Director and CEO of the company, joins us now. Hi, Mr. Jain. Thanks so much for joining in. Well, before we get to your numbers, I wanted a sense about how the first quarter of this fiscal year is shaping up. So, how much lower are sales or operations in the month of May, if you compare it with April, or you could group April and May together and compare it with March? What kind of impact have you seen? That's point number one. And point number two is how much you used to export of your total production and how much are you exporting now? Have you increased that because export markets are still strong?
Yeah, very good afternoon, Nigel. So far as operations are concerned, post-COVID-2, there is no much of the deviation. We are operating near normal capacity. When it comes to the export, we don't export any of the steel items. We export ferroalloy only, which from our Visakhapatnam plant, about 60 to 70% of the ferroalloy is exported to the other countries, and that is going on as usual. There is no change in the export scenario as far as ferroalloy is concerned. And if you see, ferroalloy in the last 6 months has been growing continuously. From October to March, it has been month on month, it has been increasing.
Got it. Okay, all right. Mr. Jain, give us a couple of more details. That hydro plant was commissioned in April 2021. That was delayed a little bit, and now, in fact, both the units have been, they have been commissioned. Give us a sense in terms of what could the revenue contribution out of this unit be, and what kind of an EBITDA number will it be as well? Because that's what could add substantial EBITDA in the time to come. Please go ahead.
Yeah, this new hydropower project of 113 megawatt in Sikkim will be doing commercial operations very soon. And we expect this to add a revenue of about 225 to 250 crores during the current year, and EBITDA of somewhere about 175 to 200 crores, somewhere in between. It should.
Okay, all right. Mr. Jain, what about the Gare Palma? Will it get operationalized in FY22, and what kind of savings can we probably anticipate in FY23?
Gare Palma 4x7, we are making efforts to commission in the next quarter itself. And it will definitely be commissioned within this calendar year. And it should give EBITDA of somewhere, about in the range of 100 crore plus minus in the FY23.
Okay. So if you had to anticipate what your margins would probably look like, I mean, currently it's at around just about 30%, but it's off from that peak of around 35% same time last year. So if you had to anticipate what your margins would look like, say in FY22, what would it be? I think FY23 might be too far ahead to project.
Yeah, as you are aware, markets are very, very volatile. As of now in China, there has been a substantial volatility, particularly in the futures market, but overall demand supply scenario, there is not much of the change. But there was a sudden sharp increase in last few days, and that is getting corrected. So the margins depend how the scenario moves. It's very difficult to predict the margin. But yes, in ferroalloys, margins have improved substantially from last quarter.
Okay, all right. Just to get a point, you said on the Gare Palma coal block, it will definitely get commissioned in this calendar year, and it would save 100 crores in FY23. Is that correct? Are you also counting the other block, or just from this one block, the savings will be 100 crores?
From this block only. Other block will be starting after 4 years.
Okay, all right. Okay. So you're going to see a bump up of EBITDA around 175 crores is what you're talking about from your hydro business, and then you're adding some savings of around 100 crores or so. If prices stay constant, then your EBITDA number could go up by nearly around 250 crores. We'll have to track that and we'll wait whether or not that can happen. But give us a sense in terms of pricing. How much are pellet prices today if you compare it with the average that we saw in the fourth quarter? Silco manganese, I think you sell that as well. What has been the increase, and long products? So you could give us a blended realization increase, or give us Silco manganese separately, and you could give us steel separately. Go ahead, sir.
present prices of pellet is hovering around 16,500 rupees a ton. And in case of silico manganese, it's 90,000, in the range of 90,000.
Okay, so you said pellets are at around 16,500 rupees per ton. That compares with how much on an average in quarter 4, and silico manganese at 90,000 rupees per ton today. What was the average in the previous quarter?
Previous quarter was about 11,000 approximately. Average realization was about 11,000.
Okay.
And in case of ferroalloys, it was somewhere about 7. Yeah. Pardon?
Okay, all right. Mr. Jain, you're going to make a good amount of money. You're guiding for rather large numbers. But give us a sense in terms of your debt. What is the current debt in your books? You had some capex as well that you had lined up. So as of FY21 end, what is the consolidated net debt in your books? By the end of this year, what should it look like? And do you have a deleveraging plan, or are you very happy with regard to the current debt levels? Go ahead.
Our net debt, net of investments and liquid cash is about 1,400 at the consolidated level. And if we remove our treasury loans, etc., then it is consolidated level loan is about 1,100 crores. And current year, we have a capex plan of about 350 crores on different projects, which includes our coal mines, then expansion project in ferroalloys plant at Visakhapatnam, 25 megawatt hydropower project, and definitely some capex on the soon to be commissioned hydropower project of Sikkim.
Okay. All right, Mr. Jain, we're going to leave it on that note. Thanks very much for joining in and talking to us. So that's the stock up around 2.5% for Sarda Energy, talking about their Q4 numbers as well as expansion going forward. Well, on to the latest court action. Ashmit Kumar joins in to tell us about the plea seeking interest waiver and loan moratorium on account of the lockdown-led distress. Ashmit, over to you.
Well, what we understand is that the spreads that we had seen last year on account of the lockdown, on account of the economic distress caused, seems to have surfaced once again. The petition has been filed afresh before the Apex Court. The petition deals with a number of concerns. It talks about how there are phased lockdowns in various states, that while there might be no national lockdown, it cannot be denied that there is a still that has been brought about in terms of economic activity that is affecting livelihoods. So towards that end, a very clear prayer was made before the Apex Court for seeking an interest waiver, seeking a waiver of, in fact, declaration of accounts as NPAs. There are relief sorts for MSMEs. So prayers are similar to the ones that we had seen last year. But what is interesting is that as opposed to last year, the Supreme Court does not seem very keen on entertaining this application. While the plea was not heard extensively today, there was an observation passed by both the judges presiding over this case where they said that this seems to be a policy decision that the regulatory bodies such as the RBI and the government would be best positioned to decide on this matter, to formulate any reliefs if deemed necessary on their part. It's best done by the government, by the regulator, not so much by the courts. That seems to be the prima facie position that the court seems to have taken as of right now, but they've not taken any decisions. They haven't passed any orders. This hearing, we understand, will resume on June 11th, and that's perhaps when we can get more clarity on whether or not there could be any fiscal burden put on the government or any regulatory burdens being put on the RBI.
Okay, all right, Ashmit, thanks a lot for joining in and filling us in with that quick update. Well, on that note, though, we'll slip into a short break. On the other side, we'll focus on the most volatile or the most keenly watched space in the last couple of weeks, the cryptocurrencies. They've seen a massive sell-off in the last